I start from blank canvas. I go and speak to 1,000 people. I figure out what their pain points is, identify a very large market. So that's my core skill. How do you identify whether it's a painkiller or a vitamin? Just go and talk to 1,000 people and just try and figure out that if they start using you, will they call you after, let's say, a week if you shut shop?
AI models that you're using today, you mentioned they will negotiate for you.
Already happening where AI agents are selling softwares to enterprises as large as multi-billion-dollar FMCG companies.
Welcome to Founders Cut by PayU, where we deep dive into the personal stories of founders and their journey of building large businesses, the why, the what, the how. My name is Vishesh, and I lead startups and everything 0 to 1 at PayU. Today, we have the ex-co-founder of Off Business, Nitin, with us, and he's on to building something new. So let's deep dive and understand his personal and his journey of building a new business. Nitin, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourselves?
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, very very glad to be here, and looking forward to speaking with you for the next however minutes. My journey, was very simple. I grew up in Delhi. Was a Delhi boy. Went to IIT. So went to Modern, and I was the only person from Modern to get into IIT. Right,
Interesting.
from my batch. Went to IIT. Spent a good number of years. I think those were the best days where I learned from the best. And then went to London, did 7 years of investment banking. Didn't quite enjoy. I didn't think I was the best investment banker. I felt I could have. I wanted something more, right? So I came back to India to do entrepreneurship. 10 years I've been scaling Off Business. I co-founded it with Ashish, Ruchi, Bhuvan, Masant. Loved every bit of it. Loved building things from scratch. Broke a lot of things. Made a lot of things. Made a lot of things work. Built a decently large setup. Decently large company. We got close to about 33,000 people working for us. That's a little bit of introduction from about myself.
Thanks for the introduction, Nitin. You were saying that one of your core skills was standing in front of a blank canvas and creating magic. What is the process that you follow?
Things that give me adrenaline or things that I absolutely love doing is working with ambiguous information, creating something out of nothing, right? So I go and speak to 1,000 people. I figure out what their pain points is, identify a very large market. See, ultimately, what makes a startup succeed, right? So let's talk about it. There are 3 or 4 points that make a startup succeed. It's about your team. It's about operating in a very large market. It's about sort of a business idea and what you want to create within that large market. And then it comes down to the traction that you're getting, right? Is there a semi pull from the clients, right? So initially, if these 4 are set, right, I think you just need these 4 and then everything else follows, right?
Would you say that most startup founders should look at jumping in and then figuring out? That's mostly how the process works.
So it depends. For the first time founders, 100% that's how it works, right? So once you decided that you want to do a startup, I think that's the first step.
Let's say you're trying to figure out the vitamins or the painkillers. What were the vitamins that you avoided? In hindsight, that you're wiser, what would you say should a framework be for a founder today to look at? How do you identify that painkiller?
So, how do you identify whether it's a painkiller or a vitamin? Just go and talk to 1,000 people and just try and figure out that if they start using you, will they call you after, let's say, a week if you shut shop, right? If they call you and they desperately need you and they say, yeah, why have you shut shop? We have lost a little bit of money or we're not making enough money. I think then you're onto something, right? Then you're a painkiller. But if they don't really care about you, whether you exist or not, or you're just one person in the line trying to do something, then you're a vitamin. Then you're not adding enough value to their lives. That's how a startup founder should think. As simple as that.
And then in B2B, you figured out while you were talking to them for a year that it's not just the supply, it's
and we were
actually
doing
the
transactions
finance.
as well. The painkiller that we're trying to solve is, when you're individually solving for material or individually solving for credit, that effectively there are many players doing that. As soon as we combine the two, we combine credit and we combine commerce, that's when we realized the SME owners loved us. Absolutely loved us, right? They were like, we were winning close to about 70-80% of inquiries that we were getting. They were calling us up and saying that, can you increase our lines? Because we're saving a lot of money with you guys. You brought in a lot of transparency into what you're doing. We get updates like a professional organization. We don't have to rely on distributors and their lies, etc., etc. Because most of the distributors, if the material doesn't reach you, they will just say, "Nahi, abhi gaadi kharab ho gayi and truck kharab ho gaya," and all that. So we were solving all of that. The SME owners absolutely loved us, and they were calling us up, and we were meeting them literally once a week or speaking to them once a week, and they were sharing their problems with us. That's how we figured out.
In this framework, would you also say that there is, at that point in time, you have to identify where your starting point is? Because credit was a very large opportunity. What you
Yeah.
mentioned, that it has to be a large opportunity. You have to figure out a PMF, and then you get into scaling that up eventually. You also have mentioned the first day at your job, Lehman Brothers shut down.
In London, yes. Oh, I was shit scared at that point of time.
Yeah, you
I
also
was just
mentioned
starting
that
up.
80% of your
In
desk was
London.
wiped out.
Yeah.
And then you still, does that were those the initial influences as well that you would say shaped you for being okay with ambiguity? Let's just drive
Actually,
into
looking
it.
back, 100%. I am just glad that happened.
That's something that you also talk about in terms of a framework, right? Like be persistent and show up every day.
Yeah.
I think most of the early
And
influences
have a purpose or a goal,
yeah,
right? That drives you. If you don't have that, and if you're not happy with that purpose or a goal, then you will not be able to do that. Not be able to be happy in what you're doing. Then you'll figure out excuses. So have that purpose or a goal that really, really drives you. That's extremely important for startup founders.
you also mentioned that the shift was also in parts influenced by the change of government, the push for infrastructure.
Yeah.
How much did that influence your shift?
It did influence quite a bit. And I think around the 2014-15 mark, that was an inflection point for all the startups with the Zomatos and the Flipkarts emerging and coming into the world and really making a mark for themselves.
That did have an influence, and that was because the government was pushing a lot on startups, making India a startup hub. We realized that US was far ahead in terms of startups, unicorns, etc., creating value for the ecosystem. We were far behind, but then the government realized and really made a push with Digital India, Startup India, etc. That made a lot of difference.
Understood. On this first year journey, and I want to keep doubling down on that one so that there's a lot for people to take from this. Steel was the first segment that you identified.
Yeah.
How did that come about? What is again the framework of identifying that first segment which you go after? Because there's a very large canvas.
So, a couple of months I just spent out in the field just speaking to people. From, as I said, from the CEOs to the purchase managers to the masons to the workers, just spent speaking to them about their problems. One of the major problems was like कि हमें steel तो local लेना पड़ता है because we cannot go very far because we don't have the resources. We said that these guys are then being overcharged by the local distributors because they have nowhere else to go. So that we figured out a common problem across 1,000 SMEs, and it was one of the largest categories.
But why steel first and why not textiles or why not some other segment?
Very good point. So we've entered into all these segments later, but you could say that the first 1,000 customers that we hit, about 30% was steel. So that actually got us very excited about steel. So we had to start somewhere.
Got it.
Right. So then we started out with steel and we started noticing a instant reward for our SMEs and in turn for us. I think it was procurement plus credit that was our purpose. Steel was just a parameter.
Steel was one of those segments where you said there was early success. So sale has happened. Let's now build for it
but
and
it
go deep.
was all about solving procurement for the SMEs and credit for the SMEs. We didn't care whether it was steel or aluminium or textiles or polymer or anything. Could have been anything. Just, I think it was a coincidence it was steel. Let me put it this way. Which is still our biggest segment right now.
Fair enough. I think that also is a good lesson for anyone to, you to start somewhere. Wherever you see initial success, you then double down on that segment. And
we had a lot of failures as well. We wanted to do furniture.
Yeah, you mentioned about that. Let's talk about that. So furniture, you're saying you stayed away from. What are the reasons for that?
So one, we realized that there was a huge problem in terms of full invoices in the furniture market, right? So it was a parallel economy which was pretty much running in the furniture space. And secondly, it was not raw material, it was finished goods. Everything was customized. So we realized that we wanted to be on the commodity side or more raw material side than the finished goods segment. And that worked for us, because we were able to scale up extremely fast and we were able to find PMF. I think on the furniture side, we would have never found PMF, and I think we shut shop within 3 months on the furniture side. Just shut shop.
Got it.
Nahi karna. We failed fast. Figured out the framework. Now we just need to, we solved one sector. It's just taking that particular sector, copy pasting the framework to another sector, and then just repeating the process. and scaling up fast within that.
Got it.
And you just have to figure out a few idiosyncrasies within the supply chain.
Got it. So how did you control for that? How did you balance between growing at any cost versus growing profitably?
So I think that's something that we were very good at. So we never let growth out of us or out of a sight, but at the same time, we didn't want to grow randomly. Like we didn't want 100% growth month on month without having profitability deeply ingrained within the ecosystem. So profitability was right from the founders to everyone. It was deeply ingrained within their DNA. So that's how I think we grew very fast, because then we knew that every transaction had to be profitable. So we set benchmarks that we will not do a transaction if it's below this kind of level of profitability, right? So that ensured that we maintained the growth. We only focused on growth, and the system took care of the profitability.
Understood.
We didn't focus on profitability then.
But
system took care of it.
But how do you manage the pressures from a VC who's given you capital and then says scale?
No, but why do you have to manage? When you know you're doing the right thing, you're growing very, very fast, then VCs are very, very happy, right? If you're growing very fast. So we didn't have any pressure from the VCs because we were growing at a rate of knots profitably. VCs were very happy. They were very happy to sit back, relax, and watch the journey. They did help us out wherever we wanted their help. But at the same time, we never had to worry about the pressures.
Last point on this one, in fact, on building a business around supply and demand, or demand backward, you also mentioned that you acquired 3 steel plants, from what I understand.
Yeah. We acquired 25 plants in all. So 3 of them were steel, yeah.
And would that not make you supply forwards, that you're trying to control probably a lot more?
No, we created distribution first. So we were demand backwards always. So we have 100,000 SMEs that we serve. So then we created the demand. We knew what they wanted, then backward integrated into setting up manufacturing of our own or acquiring manufacturing plants, creating more capacities around them to funnel or to fuel that particular demand that we already had.
Got it.
So it was never about demand generation ever. It was already about demand is already there. Can we cater to that demand by doing a little bit of manufacturing?
Understood. So you're essentially saying that there was already so much demand that you had to get into these segments, or you wanted to get into these segments to efficiently supply and manage the supply chain better. Just on this point, on the framework of starting Agri as well, that you talk about, I think no bigger segment than agriculture in India. How was that journey like? What is again the framework that you then now, as an entrepreneur within a company, you look at?
Yeah. So, I was always the 0 to 1 guy, right? So I saw Agri as a large enough opportunity and I started over there. And we achieved scale pretty fast initially, right? So I think that got me really motivated that it's a large market. We are able to see some initial success. So we went and doubled down on that particular success. I think, I was always looking at, and I was deeply interested in the sunrise sectors of India, right? So in my mind, there are 4 sunrise sectors of India, right? There may be more, but in my mind, there are 4, right? One is defense. The second is electronics. Third is renewable energies. And the fourth is waste management, with all these EVs, etc. coming into play. So these 4 to me are sunrise sectors of India. And I wanted to look at a very large segment and then figure out, as I've always done, problems to solve within that segment. So I looked at defense, I looked at electronics, I zeroed in on these 2 sectors. And I realized that in electronics, I think many companies, especially the auto companies, are buying these components, because there are about 10,000 components or 20,000 components that these companies buy, right? From capacitors, resistors, to chips, to diodes, to transistors, to thermistors, etc., etc. They're buying at a very, very expensive rate because they have no benchmarks. So when you don't have any benchmarking, and these guys are buying blind, and they're buying using archaic methods like Excel and L1, L2, L3 quotes, there is a huge opportunity. And with the AI at the forefront, so I thought that, listen, can we really aggregate data, give them benchmarking opportunities, have AI agents negotiate on their behalf? Right? And this to me was a very, very large segment.
Fair enough. So this is the blank canvas that you're standing in front of today, that these are big opportunities.
And things, in India, as you're very well aware, are moving from ICE to EV. ICE are your petrol, diesel cars, and EV is your EV, right?
Yeah.
Your EVs require 6x more electronics. So every company in India, whether it's Maruti, Honda, Bajaj, you name it, right? Tata, they're all transitioning. Companies are transitioning. They're buying 6x more, and they don't know how to benchmark. That's a big problem for them, right? It's a huge problem for them, because most of your purchase is going to be electronic components.
Yeah.
It's not going to be your mechanical parts. It's not going to be your steel. It's not going to, your engine's not going to be filled of steel and aluminum and all these parts, right? It's going to be electronics because everything is driven by electronics and batteries. So then we realize that things are moving in the right direction. This is going to take over the world. Electronics is going to be the main thing because everything will innovate. New parts will be needed because things will evolve at a very rapid pace. Like if you're buying an EV vehicle today, a new EV vehicle will or new design will come out in 1 year's time because technology is changing.
Yeah.
Components will change. Again, you'll have no idea about how to benchmark the new components. So we said that we're in the right market. It's growing very fast. It's changing very fast, and people don't know what they're doing, or people have little idea about what they're doing. What better canvas to sort of start painting on?
So we'll start with this same framework. In fact, so cover 2-3 aspects of
Yeah.
what you're building. So how large is the opportunity? You were telling me about some numbers just before we started talking.
At the moment, the electronic market in India is about $150 billion. World market is close to about 2.3, 2.4 trillion dollars. India is growing at a CAGR of let's say 35%, maybe even more if we really push, right? It'll likely reach in the next 3-4 years to likely reach $500 billion or something. With this CAGR that we're going on, that's the kind of opportunity that we're looking at.
Fair enough. So this is big, broad, identified, understood. And you mentioned that you've been really focused and reading a lot more, or even working a lot more with AI models.
I'm able to think about technology and business at the same time. So we created multilingual AI models. They were taking up proprietary information, taking existing LLMs and building something unique for the clients. So I wouldn't say we built models from scratch. We never claim to do that, right? That's virtually impossible unless you're sitting on a huge amount of money to burn.
Yeah.
Right. So we took existing LLM models, we took a lot of our data that we had, and then we built multilingual AI agents to communicate to our clients what the current pricing was, what the current news was, what the current trends were in the market.
Yes.
AI agents who are doing selling from end to end right now, software selling without having any human intervention. So that's AI is here right now, and it's big. It's not a bubble. I'm very bullish about AI and things because I want to keep this company to less than 100 people. I'm very clear.
That's interesting. And is that a conscious choice?
100%. That's the thought process. We want to be AI first in everything that we're doing.
Interesting.
In fact, I want in a year's time, if it's possible, the AI agents to be selling our products and negotiating and doing everything.
And do you think in B2B, will that also be possible where you're talking about, talking to a very large business where there is someone...
That's the aim. And I'm pretty sure we'll be able to solve it. Yeah.
That would be an interesting future to
Yeah.
be part of. And
It's already happening, by the way. It's already happening where AI agents are selling softwares to enterprises as large as multi-billion-dollar FMCG companies. It's already happening as we speak.
That might be an interesting future. So you're saying that tomorrow maybe someone can walk into, or rather someone who's the procurement head at Maruti would look at this and just interact with an agent and start doing deals which are very large.
Absolutely. I think that's where we're heading towards.
Fantastic. And then what do humans solve in this? Then you're solving for getting the right data so that there is, let's say, tech, then there is some maybe supply chain management. What all do you think?
Let's talk about Zomato and Swiggy as well, right?
Sure.
What do humans solve there? Humans solve that if you're interacting with the platform, that the backend operations, etc., whoever has to do a particular job, the tech will tell them to do this particular job and they'll define it for them. That's what they're solving. That's it. There is no application of mind involved anywhere except for the guys coding or except for the guys building the tech platform. That's what will happen. Humans will solve, they'll be given a very definitive task to solve. Okay, fine. Ship the goods from here to here. When the goods are shipped to this place, enter it in this particular system, and that's it. Then tech will take over. That's the world that we're moving towards. Humans will have a very, very, very defined role in the entire supply chain. I'm not talking about the technology building part. Because that's where obviously you require a lot of intellect, you require a lot of building. But once that is done, AI agents will take over, do all the thinking for you, do all the negotiations.
Is happiness important, or is something that you keep that builds value important to you?
I think happiness is extremely important because if you're not at ease, then there's something wrong.
Just the last thing, you mentioned that one of your biggest motivations is to help others succeed. How do you work that out? How do you see your businesses today, or generally your life helping you with
your
that?
Ultimate aim in the business is to make yourself redundant at every level. You can only do that if you have a purpose for the person working with you. If they have a purpose and you make sure that they are successful enough to take your position, then you can make yourself redundant and go and do other things that will add value. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, then you're not adding value. You've created a very organization with a key man risk. Like that's bad. You need to make yourself redundant. The company should be able to function without you. So you need to make the other person successful enough to take your position.
Just
And they have to do the same thing.
fantastic. This has been a very good chat. I think, I've personally learned so much, and I think these frameworks will help the founders as well. And
Thank you so much. I mean, actually, this podcast made me learn a lot as well.